Today is the second day of this national seminar on culture and development. And we have kept a very, very important panel today. And this is augmenting cultural sustainability and viability, other initiatives. Because it is important to understand that it is not one organization or one government or one unit, it is rather multiple entities work today have come to a stage when the rural artists, the art forms, the villages are promoted. And so thus today we have planned this panel, keeping the different entities and their roles, and their heads are here. From the very right, Banibroto Roy. Banibroto is the regional director of DC Handicraft. Somosto Shilpira DC Handicraft ke chenen, apnader artist card je office theke issued hoyeche. So artist card actually gets issued by the DC Handicraft office. So this is a very, very important. So thank you, Banibroto, for being with us. Dr. Harriet Decon. Harriet is now doing a project called HIPAMS, the role of IP and digital strategy in promoting the traditional art forms. And as part of the 5-member delegation which is visiting Bengal, this is their second visit. So thank you, Harriet, for being with us. Monica is the director of American Center, Kolkata, took over charge about 2 months back. So, Monica will representing American initiatives as well as the role of very, very interesting role. We had the opportunity of working with American Center, seeing their different perspectives, and we thought this is very, very interesting if she can agree, and she has kindly consented. Thank you, Monica, for being with us. Here, Gauri Basu, the director of Eastern Zonal Cultural Center. You know, Ministry of Culture, Government of India has seven cultural centers all across India. And one of them is Eastern Zonal Cultural Center, one of the biggest one because its coverage is East and Northeast. So, Gauri Basu is heading that initiative. EZCC, even Art for Life, when 2004 we started, actually we started with EZCC. So it's very important to know that EZCC's initial support to the folk revival project actually led the birth of Art for Life. And that time the initiative name was Art for Livelihood. And finally we realized that it is life, because we have redefined art as art equal to art plus artist plus village. So all three must improve to improve art. So Gauri is here, so thank you, Gauri, for being with us. Shushmita, representing German consulate, she's here. She's a political officer, but she has taken a fabulous initiative reviving Shola craft. Now, Shola craft revival was, Shola we did not take up under RCCH or RCH, but Shola was picked up by German consulate, and they have taken a very, very special initiative. Interestingly, only in Shola there are about 7,000 artists. But if you look at the masters, there are only about 10 or 15, and the craft is dying. So seeing the number 7,000, somebody might think Shola is doing great. Actually not. So reviving Shola has been one of the major, this is a very, very important initiative that German consulate have taken, and I thank Shushmita for taking the lead for doing this. So thank you, Shushmita, for being with us. And of course, it will be moderated, chaired by Ahmed Waida. Yesterday, he gave us the keynote, and it's thank him for agreeing to be the chair of this panel. And Ahmed is a global coordinator for heritage and tourism. Thank you again. Thank you, everybody, and over to Ahmed.
Thanks so much, Amitav. Good morning, everyone. It's quite a pleasure to be with you again today. I think we had a fabulous day yesterday. Is that true? Yeah. I was telling Amitabh and other organizers, I did not feel yesterday we were in a conference. I felt it was a festival with all performance, and thanks all artists sitting in the back. Thank you so much. So today we have a fantastic panel that Amitabh presented. I'm very honored to moderate your session. And let's start in the same order in the agenda. So let's start with Mr. Bani Brata Ray. Thank you. Let's say that every presentation will take about 8, 10, 12 minutes max. But if I see any hand up after any presentation, I will give you the floor to ask the question. Otherwise, we'll keep all questions to the end. Okay?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning to the dignitaries on the dais and the August gathering. I am Bani Broto Roy. I am Regional Director. As you know, I am representing Office of DC Handicrafts. And DC Handicrafts, basically, the Office of DC Handicrafts basically is the nodal agency which spearheads all the promotional and developmental activities of handicraft sector, including the development of the handicrafts artisans. We do it through our field formations. We have 6 regional offices and 60 service centers across the country. So I would only give you a brief overview of the schemes through which we take this job through. So there is an array of schemes and sub-schemes through which we promote handicrafts in the country, and they have been now clubbed into 3 umbrella schemes. One is Ambedkar Hastshilp Vikas Yojana, another is Marketing Support and Services, and third one is Research and Development. Ambedkar Hastshilp Vikas Yojana is a very comprehensive scheme. I'll give you the sub-schemes here. Then you will understand how comprehensively DCA thinks to promote the handicraft sector, preserve the languishing crafts, as also promote the livelihood and ameliorate the living standards of the handicrafts artisans. Now, when we talk about sub-schemes of the schemes of the Ambedkar Hastshilp Vikas Yojana, you see, it has Dastkar Sashaktikarana Yojana, design and technology upgradation, human resources development, direct benefit to artisans, and infrastructure and technology support. Now, Dastkar Sashaktikarana Yojana, that gives us basically, through this scheme, we basically try to identify the artisans, where are they based, is there any cluster, we identify what is their need, how can they go up. Supposing they are doing something, whether they are partially employed to that handicrafts sector or they are full-time workers. After that, we try to get a DPR or a diagnostic study made for that sector or for that cluster. We give Government of India in DCAs, they give financial support while preparing this DPR, while going for a survey to find out who are the handicrafts artisans. There is a baseline survey made for that. And then they are also mobilized for forming self-help groups so that this can be a community-based project kind of a thing, and the entire group into community progresses. And for that, project management cost, wage compensation to cluster manager are also given. And then ultimately, comprehensive development support is when the DPR is made. In the DPR, all these things are seen, whether there is a scale gap, what are the interventions can be given to that particular cluster, if there is a need for an infrastructural development, all these things come to the, they are mentioned in the comprehensive, they are mentioned in the DPR and taken up through comprehensive development support. Then there is another component, as I said, that is about the design and technology upgradation. So there are certain components in here: design and technology development workshop, integrated design and technology development project. We give assistance to exporters and entrepreneurs for designing prototypes. They understand better what the market is Actually, the foreign market is looking at what kind of what kind of products they are looking at that can be delivered. So who are people, either EPCs or the entrepreneurs who are exporting, we take their feedback, and then we also assist them to develop some prototypes for that. And then commercial market intelligence design, trend and technical color focus, these are all technical things that might not be available, those inputs might not be available to the artisans. They are also being funded by Government of India in the office of DCH for somebody to help us. There are agencies who will be doing this, like NIFT, NCDPD, and all these organizations. Now, design and technology development workshop, it allows the designers to develop new kind of prototypes, and that is, the basic idea to get that done is to suit the taste of the state and taste and preferences of the contemporary market. And this is a 2 months kind of a training program, and it's a short duration training program. One market survey is done for 1 month, and another month is that design development is done. Then you have a longer duration training program when integrated design and technology development project is done. In that, there is a 1 month survey also is there, and then design is developed, and then there is another unique provision of market study. Whatever is produced, whatever design is developed, that is put to a market study. So that is how we also come to know whether that design developed is actually going to help us. And this is what I discussed, that assistance is also given to exporters and entrepreneurs for design prototypes. They can also get a funding from Government of India. And this is commercial market intelligence, as I had been discussing. This is given by National Institute of Design, NIFT, EPCH, CEPC, NCDPD. These are the organizations who are basically involved in designing or exporting things. Now we come to this is human resource development. This is again Ambedkar Hastashilp Vikas Yojana's one of the sub-schemes. Now, this is basically to fill the skill gap which has been identified by the DPR. When we had been making the DPR, then we try to understand there may be some skill gaps. So we impart the training through established institutions. Now, when we talk about established institutions, they are institutions like vocational training institutions or institutes which are recognized by the central or the state government, who are into the business of training people for quite some time. They are chosen, and this is a 5-year kind of a project which is taken up, and then people are, the artisans are trained into that particular skill sets. Then we have handicraft training programs. Now, handicraft training program, there are 2 types of skill training programs. One is technical trainings and another is soft skills training. Mind you that all the trainees are already has some kind of skill. They are already handicraft. When I say handicraft artisans, means they are having some kind of skill on a particular craft. And then they are taken to given, they are selected, then handicraft training programs are imparted. These are technical trainings. Technical trainings, it aims to train the persons in handicrafts and handmade carpets, including pattern making, stencil making, mold making, etc. The training duration shall be between 4 weeks and 4 months. Batch size is very small. They are kept at a minimum of 20 so that there is a one-to-one kind of teaching. Then we take them to soft skill training. Soft skill training are non-technical trainings, like the artisan may not be knowing how to go for a loan, how to apply for loans and all. Then this microfinancing training or microfinance training on microfinance is also given. Then they are given some kind of training on business plans, how to make business plans, how to prepare their papers if they want to export their material, whatever products they are producing. And this kind of training given for minimum 2 days and maximum 12 days. These are also given through important and reputed agencies. Now, this is another important kind of training we impart. It is called Guru Shishya Parampara. Guru Shishya Parampara, master craftsman actually transfers his knowledge and traditional skills to the selected new generation artisans. And duration is 2 months and maximum 6 months. Batch size is 15 participants. So again, batch size is kept very low. And this Guru Shishya Parampara, this master craftsmen who are national awardee, who has got some national award or some state award, they are only selected for imparting this kind of training. Now, training of the trainers is again very interesting. It's a course for the master craftspersons and trainers who, for their refreshing, it's a refresher course and honing up their skills, under which the master craftspersons trainers are exposed to new designs and use of improved tools and new production techniques. This is again 20 participants and duration is 4 to 8 weeks. Then design mentorship, this is meant for those students who are in the design school, fine arts school, or in fashion technology and all. The final year students are taken, they are selected so that they can get an exposure to the overall scenario and they also understand and appreciate this kind of programs. Now, direct benefit to the artisans, which I think to me is the best part, and issue of Pehchan cards and creation of database, I'll talk about this. This is 1, 2, 3. Fourth one. This is most important part, I think, because identification of handicrafts artisans by our offices or by enumerators, this gives the basic recognition to an handicrafts artisan. Unless and until we recognize that he is an artisan, then there is no benefit available to him. That is one so far as benefit is concerned, and artisan always wants recognition. So recognition is already a great kind of a motivation to them. Then there are this issue of Pehchan card is linked to the benefits, whether you want to be get trained, whether you want to be linked to the market and all. Everywhere you need this artisan I card, which is very important in Indian handicraft scenario. So right now we have some 29 lakhs artisans I card all over the country has been distributed. We have a target of 31.30 lakhs. So in West Bengal, we have more than 4 lakh artisans. Some 3.25 artisan cards, we are trying to push that artisan cards right now. And then thereafter this Bima Yojana for handicrafts artisans, this is again another thing. Through this is linked to Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, and in which the artisan has to contribute a very nominal amount of ₹80, and this is a 330 rupees contribution per year. This is given year on year basis. Rest of the amount is put in by Government of India, that is Office of DCH and LIC. Government of India puts in 150 rupees and 100 rupees is put in by LIC. So that makes it 330 rupees. Plus 12 more rupees is also put by Government of India, that is Swasthya Bima Suraksha Yojana. For that it covers, under that it is accidental death or loss of limb is also covered. Then we come to the support to artisans in indigent circumstances. Here we give the artisans whose income is less than 50,000 per annum is given 3,500 rupees of pension. There are certain conditions. The income is to be certified by an first-class magistrate or something like that. Then these artisans who are already of some repute, they have got state award, national award, so they are given this kind of benefit when they reach the age of 60 plus. Interest subvention scheme, supposing an artisan wants to apply for Mudra loan, you know Mudra loan is Shishu, Kishore and Tarun. There are various categories of, there are various caps of amount which is disbursed as loan. So DCH gives interest subvention to the tune of 6%. Supposing the loan interest rate is 10%, the artisan has to pay only 6%. There is another margin money provision of 10,000 rupees in this case also. And then financial assistance for supply of tools, safety equipments, looms, furnace, this is called, we identify that what would be the need of this particular artisan to do a better kind of a job to produce more. We talk of only tools, we do not talk of machines. Small tools, and those tools, if it enhances his output, if it enhances the basic design and all, then we also distribute this kind of toolkits to the artisans. And award for outstanding contribution in handicraft sector, there are 3 awards. One is National Merit, another is National Award, and the most coveted award is Shilpa Guru Award. So various prize money is also there. I'll elaborate, I think time is already short here. So I'll hurry up this. This is infrastructural facilities. This is about market linkage. This is about making people aware of whatever the handicrafts are available in the country. And you can see we have urban hut, mini urban hut, emporia, marketing and sourcing hubs. This is very important. You know, sometimes the artisans have to go a far off place to source their material, raw material which is needed for making a product. So we finance that also, that you have a sourcing hub here, you procure that and pass it on at a cheaper rate to the handicrafts artisans. So these are craft-based resource centers, common facility center, where if you do not have the required facilities at your home, you are a part-time handicrafts artisan, you can go to that common facility center and use those facilities there. So the most important is whatever the artisans have produced, where do they sell? With a host of schemes, sub-schemes, Office of Development Commission of Handicrafts supports various organizations for promoting and marketing handicrafts. The support is available for organizing activities in domestic market as well as in overseas market. So I'll not do it in detail. So this is domestic marketing event, assistance for organizing workshops, seminars, symposiums, rental for warehousing, publicity and brand promotion. So when we do the domestic marketing, there is a Gandhi Sale Bazaar. There are 100 stalls are given free of cost to the artisans. It is done basically on metro cities. It is done non-metros also. Crafts Bazaar, again, there are 100 artisans participate. Exhibitions, there are 40 artisans. This is a smaller one and done in smaller towns, so that the people who do not have that much of handicrafts items to be taken to bigger markets, they can come there locally and sell it locally. Hiring of built-up spaces, and craft awareness program is a very important program, so that you invest in future potential buyers. And this is given, this assistance is given for marketing events organizing abroad, folk craft festival, India standalone shows, etc. Now buyer-seller meet, it is also organized. Buyer-seller meet abroad and reverse buyer-seller meet in India are also organized. Publicity is all right, web marketing you all understand, I think. Then research and development is a small one, but it plays a very important role. This office has been implementing these schemes called research and development on all India basis to conduct surveys. So I'll take only 1 more minute, that's all, because we'll be talking about intellectual property and all. So we also finance for holding seminars and all. And you will be happy to know there is almost 11 crafts, handicrafts of West Bengal, which has the GI tagging. So with that, I will not take much of a time. Thank you so much for having patience. This is Indian handicraft, magic of gifted hands. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Excellent presentation. Excellent presentation. Thank you so much. I think you give us a very, the full project cycle, from diagnostic until marketing support, research, training, soft training, and skills and technical training, exhibition, export support. Excellent approach. Thank you so much. So next we have Ms. Basu, who is Director of EGCC. Thank you.
Namaskar. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Ahmed, if you feel I'm getting carried away, just stop me. As has been said at the beginning of this session, I come from the Zonal Cultural Center, the Eastern Zonal Cultural Center. There are 7 zonal cultural centers across the country, the North, South, East, and West. We have a North Central, we have a South Central, and we have a Northeastern Zonal Cultural Center. The zonal cultural centers were set up in 1985 with a view to culturally integrate the states and union territories as a part of the program of national integration. Our mandate is the promotion, preservation, and dissemination of folk and tribal culture. EZCC, that is the Eastern Zonal Cultural Center, has under it 9 states. We have West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, Orissa, and in the Northeast we have Sikkim, Manipur, Tripura, Assam, and we have the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. These are the states we deal with. Folk culture has always been my passion, and now promoting culture is also my profession. So when passion and profession come together, and with the help of all my artist friends sitting here, we do hope that the Eastern Zone will be able to do good work over the next few years. When I began my journey through this folk canvas called India, I was traveling light. Today my bags are full. Memories and faces of another world cram every nook and corner of my heart. My interaction with the folk and traditional artists of our country has been a learning experience for me at multiple levels. Not only have they given me a deep understanding and appreciation of our arts, but their daily struggle to keep the embers of tradition burning against all odds is a lesson in determination, where we see that contentment is born of the mind and not from plenitude. India is a mosaic of varied cultures, layer upon layer, tempered in a history of common vitality. India offers to the world a visage that is truly spectacular, heterogeneous, and diverse. India is one of the most ancient civilizations in the world, and it has a multicultural heritage. In this multicultural heritage, every cultural heritage is distinct, yet there is an underlying unity in the diversity. And this comes from the ever-flowing, integral life heritage of the nation, and that is what makes our culture stand out. I have been asked to speak on the sustainability and viability of Indian culture. India is a storehouse of culture, both performing and non-performing. Many of our art forms were going into oblivion. It is through the efforts of the central government, the efforts of the different state governments, and the non-government agencies that many of these art forms have been brought out of oblivion, and today we are able to preserve many art forms. In today's tribal and village societies, very few people are sustaining themselves by just following an art tradition that has been handed down to them through generations. This is because monetarily they cannot sustain themselves through that. They are engaged in different professions. They may be agricultural laborers, they may be in poultry, fishery, they may be, cycle rickshaw pullers, rickshaw van pullers. They have a variety of other professions that they have to have in order to sustain themselves. In spite of that, it is to their credit that they keep alive their traditional art. Every evening, They gather in the village square and they practice their art. They are always prepared. Anytime we call them, they are prepared to perform because they are in regular practice. They also perform at all village festivities, all social occasions, and they keep their art alive. But just practicing their art cannot keep them alive. Our main concern today is how to enthuse the younger generation to be proud of their roots and to continue the tradition. Many of them are moving away from their tradition. This is our biggest challenge today. Tribal and village societies are going through rapid transformations. There is modernization in the social, cultural milieu, and this is where the younger generation is moving towards a completely different culture from where they had grown up. Changes that are brought in by modern and scientific attitudes are always very good because it shows that development is taking place. But at the same time, we have to remain connected to our roots. The art and culture of our tribal communities have to be given a new respectability and a new orientation in the overall scheme of cultural development. The best traits and traditions of modernity and tradition have to be synergized for sustainable development. Otherwise, it cannot take place. Tribal communities have got a very rich tradition of culture and heritage, and they also have very unique lifestyles and customs. Their rich culture is manifested in their folklore, it is manifested in their traditional costumes, in their jewelry, and in their lifestyle. When they move to cities looking for better opportunities, they somehow lose their connect with their roots, and this becomes a threat. At the zonal cultural centers, we try to preserve all these cultures. We are working extensively on folklore preservation. Many of our communities have a lot of folklores which their younger generation even don't know about. We are trying to document these folklores both in print form as well as in digital form, so that the younger generation gets enthused to know about their folklores. We often conduct a lot of workshops on the making of traditional jewelry, on the making of traditional costumes, so that people get to know what their tradition is all about. The government of India has allocated a large fund for the promotion of the Northeast. Every time we have a program of the Northeast, which we normally call the Octave program, the 8 states of the Northeast, we also include a fashion show of the Northeast. In the fashion show of the Northeast, most of the Northeastern girls look beautiful in anything they wear because they are beautiful. But when they walk on stage, we always have the girls and boys walking in pairs, one in traditional costume and one in the Western costume, Western gear that they are used to wearing. And when they see the contrast, they themselves feel very proud of their own clothes. Very recently, at the Eastern Zonal Cultural Center, I had organized a beauty contest. This was not a regular beauty contest. It was a beauty contest just for tribal women. There were mainly Santali women, but we also had the Orauns, the Mundas, the Hos, and other communities also. The first round, the young girls walked in their modern clothes. They looked beautiful. In the second round, they walked in their traditional gear, and they looked even more beautiful. And they themselves said, "Aren't our clothes looking beautiful?" So that is what we want to enthuse our young generation about. Our young generation needs intellectual feed that has deep perspectives and cultural values. We have to educate young minds. Our young urban youth are not exposed to our traditional culture. When we expose them to our traditional culture, we see that they get very excited and they want to know more about it. So what we have to do is, we have to take our performing art forms to schools, colleges, to shopping malls, where I know that there is going to be a huge crowd of young people, because they are the future of the country. They are the ones who will carry this legacy forward. So this is what we have to do with them. The electronic media also has to play an important part. Prime time has to be given to our folk culture. Unless prime time is given to our folk culture, our intelligentsia and our urban people are not going to get to know about our roots. With the efforts of the government, many people now know about many of our art forms, but there's still a lot of work for us to do. We also have to develop strategies for indigenous people to use digital technology. You know, in a couple of days, Bengal will be celebrating its biggest festival, Durga Puja. We are going to get the platform of several pujas across the city. What we are going to do is, we are going to ask anybody who has any interest in folk culture to come and perform there, and we are going to put it up on digital media for the world to see. That is the only way we can promote it. As Mr. Banibrato just said, Government of India has the Guru Shishya Parampara scheme, but our scheme is a little different from theirs in the sense we choose a vanishing or a dying art form. After we choose that dying art form, the Guru is selected and we have Shishyas under him, that is disciples under him, and our project continues for a year, 2 years. And they learn from the Guru, and it's very important because when parents see that government is showing interest in a particular art form, then they also get enthused to send their children to learn the art form. Before that, they feel it is useless for them to pursue this. They should study and go to the city and get a good job. We have the National Cultural Exchange Program, where we have artists from different corners of the world, different corners of the country coming together and performing together, learning from each other. This way, art forms are enhanced. For instance, the Purulia Chhau dance of Bengal has taken a part of the Singhi Cham dance of Sikkim and made their presentation visually more exciting. So this sort of exchange, not only for the audience, but also for the artists, is very important. I've already told you about the Young Talented Artist Scheme, which we are promoting everywhere. We have the documentation of the vanishing art forms. Recently, I wanted to document a particular art form of Bengal, which is called Magoner Gan, which is the songs of the beggars. These are people who used to sing all over the countryside, begging and asking for alms. In lieu, they made them hear their songs. The songs changed with every season and with every occasion. When I looked for these artists, I didn't find them. I just found one person. I told him, I can't have an entire documentary done on just you. Don't you have your sons who do the same kind of thing? He said, no, my sons have studied and they have gone to the city, so they don't do this anymore. While that made me happy that there is progress, there is development, it also made me sad that a very, very important part of our culture has actually died out. These songs are important because of their content. And this content, if I don't document it right now, is going to completely die out. We have the Theatre Rejuvenation Scheme. Am I done? Can I just take 2 minutes more? We have the Theatre Rejuvenation Scheme, in which folk theatre is promoted. And please remember that our folk artists, there are many artists sitting here, they are the performers, they are the choreographers, they are the dress designers, they are the makeup artists. They are a complete package. Our job is just to help them improve their package and present it better. And anchoring of such programs is very important because it is important that the audience knows what it is all about. I just want to give you 2 examples. Once our folk artists, we cannot make our folk artists sustain themselves just by practicing their art. We have to give them some other form of livelihood also. A former railway minister once saw a beautiful performance on stage, and he called the artists. And he asked them that, what have you studied? You are performing beautifully, but what have you studied? They all said they were graduate. He immediately gave them all jobs in the railways, 14 of them, all of them. That enthused them. The group continues to perform even today. Today, IT giant has joined hands with a very big school group, and they're promoting folk culture all over the country. I would appeal to hotels like this, like in Rajasthan. You go to any Haveli in Rajasthan, every evening you will see the Kalbelia dancers dancing, you will hear the Langa Manganiyar singers singing. Why can't we have our singers, our dancers, our musicians on stage every evening in hotels like this? Hotels in Orissa are also promoting their art. We should do it even in our state. And many private agencies are setting up kalagrams, that is heritage villages. We also have our own Shilpogram, but I think more people will have to come forward to do this. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Ms. Paso, about this excellent presentation to understand the promotion, the other dimension, the promotion, preservation, dissemination aspects of it, as well as the documentation of heritage, traditional heritage in print form, digital form, and reaching out to children, the future generation. Excellent points. So next in the agenda, we have Dr. Harriet, Deacon of HiPAMS. Thank you.
Right. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much to Bangla Natak for inviting me to speak. I'm speaking on behalf of the HiPAMS team, Charlotte Velde, who's leading the team with Ananya Bhattacharya, introduced the project yesterday, and I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail about one of the case studies that we're looking at in the research project, which is the work done by the artists of Naya Village, some of whom I think are still here today, and contact base on the promotion of Patachitra, Bengal Patachitra. As Charlotte said yesterday, the HiPAMS model tries to bring together a consideration of heritage safeguarding, how to look after heritage practices, to safeguard them, together with a consideration of marketing and intellectual property protection. And we heard from some of the other speakers this morning that this is a very critical issue for Indian handicrafts. I think one of the challenges is how to maximize the benefit in terms of income and livelihoods for artists while avoiding some of the risks of over-commercialization. And what we found was that there wasn't a lot of conversation about how the methodologies that you can use to help people plan to maximize benefits and minimize these risks. So we developed, or we have been developing a process by which we can try and find a way to balance these 3 aspects in the promotion of artist livelihoods. And what we've realized is that often we don't really ask in detail, what is the heritage that we're trying to protect? We kind of take it for granted. Even as artists, sometimes we take it for granted what it is that we are trying to safeguard. So the first step in the process is really to think about what is it that we have already on the table. The second part in the process to developing proposals for how to maximize synergies between the marketing, IP, and heritage protection needs. And then we're now at this stage with the community in Naya Village of actually taking proposals to them to decide on strategies to implement. We're then going to evaluate and report back on the process. So some of you already know a lot more than me about Patachitra and Naya. We really came in as an external team to this process and relied on the experience of artists and Bangla Natak with the community in terms of the content. But the Naya, what is particularly striking about Naya Village is that the artists perform with these beautifully painted scrolls, that there's a song associated with the performance. As we heard earlier, there's a tradition in the past in many places of people going door to door and performing with scrolls, often to illustrate their song stories. Nowadays, people tend to sell the scroll and just perform as part of the sales process. And we really reflected on that change and how that has actually changed the relationship between the heritage and the product that is sold. I'll come back to that issue just now. So when we came last year, we did a bit of research asking what about the heritage is important to the community? What skills do they want to pass on to later generations? What aspects of it are important? We also asked, what does their market currently look like? What do you want to do with this market going forward? Do you want to grow your market? Where do you want to grow it? And we also looked at what existing IP protection was in place. And what we tried to do was identify a kind of baseline of where we can see where these HIPAM strategies can add value. We then developed some proposals based on our research, and we came back to Naya. We've just come back from a community meeting a couple of days ago. We had a very exciting meeting. You can see all of us standing in the village center after discussing some of these proposals. So I'm going to speak very briefly about some of the proposals we made and the responses from the artist community and what's the next step. In Naya, there are a number of different products. So there's been a lot of talk about diversified products. And one of the questions we had was, to what extent do we just see diversified products as a way of getting new markets? Or to what extent do we see diversified products also as feeding back into the heritage tradition? And how can it do that? So we've started thinking not just about this idea, which we see as quite old-fashioned, of authenticity, but maintaining a heritage skills repertoire. And diversified products can be helpful in making money. Let's say, for example, many of the Patachitra artists sell T-shirts, and that's quite a big part of their diversified product market. Now, on the one hand, that makes money, but on the other hand, it's a good training ground for learning how to paint. It's a good training ground for young artists learning how to paint. It doesn't necessarily take the same level of skill as doing a full scroll. But the fact that people are producing T-shirts doesn't mean that these heritage skills, knowing the way to make the longer scrolls, knowing how to sing the songs with the scrolls, those skills have not disappeared because they're present in other products. So people are still making the longer scrolls and selling them, and those heritage skills are therefore still safeguarded to some extent. So we've stopped worrying so much about the authenticity of each product and starting to think in a strategic sense about how does the product mix coming out of the artist community help to maintain the full heritage skills repertoire that they've identified. Just to remind you that those heritage skills are on the left-hand side, performing with scrolls, composing new scrolls. These are all characteristics of the heritage that the community themselves has identified. So these are the things that they feel are very important. After looking at the way in which the heritage relates to the products, we also did some marketing analysis. Diego is a marketing expert, and he worked very hard on trying to understand a few things about how the marketing is currently working and how some of the challenges, especially in the online international market, can be understood. He pointed out that in many ways, the market for simple products is starting to become less valuable than the market for a product that has an experience around it. Especially for a heritage product, the fact that the scroll and the Patachitra art has a song associated with it, it has a meaning, it has a much deeper value. How do you communicate that to customers? How do you educate customers that this is part of the story, this is part of the art? How do you link the scroll to the song? How do you even maybe link some of these other diversified products to the songs? So that's the one point that came out of the marketing analysis. Another point is that when you Google Patachitra in all its various spellings, Odisha Patachitra has a much higher market awareness than Bengal Patachitra. And for example, Bengal Patachitra has a craft mark, but if you look at the Patachitra product specification on the craft mark website, there's only one for Odisha Patachitra. So there's actually a problem about presenting Bengal Patachitra to the in the online environment. More needs to be done. The third point is that most of the marketing was not being done by the artists themselves. And how does one move to a situation where people are telling stories about themselves, about their art, and actually playing a very active role in that personally? One of the ways to promote not just individual marketing, but marketing as a group would be to promote the work of the association. There's an artist association in the village, and also the festival Potmaya and the village itself. And again, there's some very cheap tools that can be used in digital online marketing to try and promote the place, the festival, and so on. TripAdvisor, for example, doesn't have an entry for Naya Village. Another thing that we looked at was the GI that has been registered for Bengal Patachitra, and Naya is able to use the GI. It falls under the scope of the GI. But it wasn't clear initially exactly what products the GI would be able to cover. And so we did a bit of research trying to find out what is the legal basis and what is the level, the scope of spread around the legal basis for use of the GI that the community artists could use to put the GI on their products. Can they use it on all the diversified products was one of the questions we were asking. We feel that now we've come to the view that it can be. But the key, just to say something else about the GI, the key problem with the GI is by itself, a GI doesn't necessarily add value. It can be a bit of an empty vessel. You have to put meaning and reputation. You have to communicate that. You have to use it so that its reputation can be expanded. Because with new markets, the GI doesn't necessarily convey the depth of reputation that it could. So you have to do work to fill the GI logo with meaning for new customers and to enhance the meaning it might have already for existing customers. So after all this research, we came to the community with some proposals, and I'll just cover one or two of the proposals. So on the one hand, we felt that it was very important to link the singing to the scrolls, to the products. And so one of the proposals we made was that there should be more digital storytelling by the community themselves, where they can actually put performances onto social media, and then people can start to develop an understanding of their own individual skills as well as the communal skills around the art form. And one of the ways to do that, to take that further, is then to have a QR code on the packaging where you can link the actual product to the performance that the artist has done. We also made some proposals around Creative Commons notices. I'll show you an example now, and codes of ethics, because some of the legal tools like the GI are very nice in theory and they're very nice for marketing, but when it comes to actually enforcing some of the rights of the community, or trying to control what gets done by gallery owners or filmmakers, it's very hard to actually find legal protection and enforce that in court for the communities. And a final proposal we had was around a scroll, a Patachitra scroll, that could actually talk about how to use the GI, that can talk about how to use these codes of ethics that they might have for gallery owners. We used Diego found this lovely picture that uses the fish theme that's so common in Naya art to describe the necessity for working as a collective as well as an individual artist in the marketing, the strength in numbers. And so we spoke both about the collective interests and approaches as well as individual artists looking for what makes them special in the market. One of the strategies we discussed in the meeting was that artists said they were sometimes worried that people were coming and taking photographs at the festivals, and just understanding their rights, that if somebody wants to take a very high quality photograph of your artwork, you have the right to say no, and you have the right to say to them, look, we don't want you to take a picture of me and my art, but don't use it commercially. And so we started talking about Creative Commons licenses and notices that could be put up at Potmaya. Artists recognized that it was very important to get other people, visitors, to do their marketing for them. You know, these pictures are going around the internet, is creating awareness about the village. At the same time, you want to protect your interests. And this is one way to do it. We also discussed the idea of one of these codes of conduct, which could be developed to manage the relationship between artists and gallery owners, or artists and filmmakers. Artists like the idea of this art code, but what was interesting is in the meeting they were saying that actually what they would also like is to discuss a code of conduct around copying of artworks within the community, and how they were going to manage a communal strategy around art production. So what we are going to do in the HiPAMS team is we are going to bring in some examples of international codes of conduct, help them adapt them to their needs, and then facilitate through Bangla Natak the process of them developing the codes that they want. So to conclude, I think for now, we're not sure exactly what the outcome of the HIPAM strategy implementation is going to be, because the implementation is starting now. In the next 6 months, the artists will start implementing some of these strategies. They'll do training on digital marketing, they'll do training on intellectual property, we'll start developing some of the codes of conduct, and we'll do training on the GI and some of the notices for Potmire, some of the marketing suggestions for Potmire. So they're going to start implementing, and then we evaluate and see how much it assists them. I think where HIPAMS as an approach may add value is that it tries to bring all of these different aspects together in a way that is synergistic. So we're trying to always check, is this intervention helping the safeguarding of the heritage? Is this actually doing what we think it will do? Because just registering a GI, for example, may not have a good effect. It may have a bad effect. And so we're very interested in that feedback loop and making it as possible, as positive as possible. And in that feedback loop, we're very interested in the balance between individual interests and actions. And finally, I think the interdisciplinary approach of this project may be beneficial in actually moving outside of a kind of, in a way, a disciplinary box. So we start developing new language around how to talk about the connection between heritage, commercialization, and community benefit or sustainable development. And so we've been starting to talk about terms like heritage resonant innovation or heritage skills repertoire. And what's the third one, Diego? Yeah, and reputation. And so trying to develop a new language actually to talk about this synergistic approach to understanding that relationship between heritage, safeguarding, and sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for a very rich presentation, which completes a step more to complete the story on the role of IP in heritage, commercialization, safeguarding, and benefiting the community. So by this, we go to the next speaker, Ms. Shoshmita Mandal, who is the Officer of Political Affairs, Culture, Press, and Public Relations in the General Consulate of Germany, Kolkata. Thank you.
Namaskar. Good morning. On behalf of the German Consulate General Kolkata, I will talk about our initiative to revive the Shola craft tradition of Bengal. The German government launched its cultural preservation program in 1981 to help countries to protect and preserve their cultural heritage. Together with partners from the academic, scientific, and cultural spheres, the German government ensures that a vivid picture of various traditions, lifestyles, and cultural values are preserved for future generations worldwide. The projects under the Cultural Preservation Program aim to lead cultural sustainability, protect and nurture cultural diversity, and raise people's awareness of their own cultural identity, a cherished instrument of German cultural relations and education policy worldwide. Between 1981 and 2018, more than 3,000 projects in 144 countries were funded for about 78 million euros, that is approximately 623 crore Indian rupees, by the German Foreign Office under its Cultural Preservation Program, be that restoration of an open-air museum, or creation of a sound archive, or a descriptive topographical catalogue. In many cases, the projects under the Cultural Preservation Program are undertaken in association with the government of the host country, especially for the restoration or conservation of architectural monuments. Reviving Shola Craft of Bengal is one of such projects of the German Foreign Office in 2019. A Kolkata-based not-for-profit society, contact-based Bangla Natok, has been given a grant of 50,000 euro, that is approximately 40 lakhs of Indian rupees, by the German Consulate General Kolkata to revive an intricate and exquisite craft tradition of Bengal, Shola craft. The project proposes to restore and revitalize the fine Shola craft tradition through facilitation of skill transmission, documentation, and innovation, and making it sustainable. Shola pith craft, or in short, Shola craft, an age-old craft tradition of Bengal, faces the threat of extinction with only very few remaining expert artisans and without any documented skill or craft techniques. Many of the delicate, intricate items and accessories like pith helmets are no longer produced. There is also a lack of interest among the younger generations in this fine craftsmanship. The market of typical Shola crafts is either stagnant or seasonal, and the products are largely of low value. Shola or Shola pith is a milky white spongy plant matter which is shaped into objects of art and utilities by artisans. Shola plants grow in waterlogged areas during monsoons, mainly in Bengal, Assam, Odisha, and the Deccan. Craftspersons, many of whom are women, are scattered across various districts in West Bengal. For example, Alipurduar, Cooch Behar, Murshidabad, Burdwan, South 24 Parganas, etc. One requires only knives of different sizes and shapes to make a piece of Shola into a fine piece of art. Other items that are used are nylon or cotton thread, rubber bands, aluminum wire, bamboo or coconut sticks, gum or herbal colors, etc. Shola is highly significant in customs and traditions of Bengal. Apart from mainstream Bengali culture, indigenous communities use Shola in different rituals. Though at present, most Shola craft persons produce only low-value customary products, many of which are used for religious rituals, few of the existing artisans are still able to make perfect motifs or designs and create the most extraordinary and exquisite items of decorations and artistic figurines. Murshidabad district had a grand legacy of ivory craftsmanship. This has been carried forward to the present day with the replacement of the material. The Shola craft products found in Murshidabad are models with intricate details and workmanship. Puppets, decorative items, objects like miniature landmarks, and figurines made of Shola are some of the modern, eco-friendly, and aesthetic keepsakes. Under this Reviving Shola Craft of Bengal project, till mid-July, we have had the phase of research and documentation of the present state of the craft, workshops conducted to experiment and improving on the currently available products, and where younger craftspersons could learn from their master craftsmen. As a part of the project, an online platform has been developed for knowledge and skill transmission on Shola craft. In mid-July, along with an exhibition on Shola craft, this website, that is www.sholacraft.com, was launched. There were also discussions and skill transmission by Shola craft expert artisans and workshops for school children, where over 200 students from different schools and art colleges participated. 29 Shola craft artists from the different districts of West Bengal participated at that event. As we believe that Shola craft has also the potential to have newer avenues of expression, during August-September, a number of workshops are being organized with the Shola craft artisans and some professional designers, as well as students of National Institute of Fashion Technology, Kolkata, Indian Institute of Crafts and Design of Jaipur, and Shilpo Shodon of Shantiniketan. In October, a special event in Goa will take place that will not only include exhibition of Shola craft items and workshops by artists, mainly for school and college students, but also a show on Shola hat, jewelry, accessories, and some other possibilities of Shola in contemporary fashion and decor. These items are currently being developed in the workshops with the designers and the students of the designing institutes. In Goa, there will also be B2B meetings for possible new market segments, which is very much necessary. A coffee table book and a film on Shola craft will be launched in November. Under this project, the final exhibition of Shola craft items will be on 1st of December at the yearly Christmas market of the German Consulate General in Kolkata. Sustainability and viability of the fine Shola craft would surely depend on knowledge and skill transfer and spreading awareness of this craft tradition. But more importantly, it has to provide economic incentive to the artisans and the craftspersons so that they can earn their living and have a comfortable life. To achieve this, we need Shola craft products that are more contemporary in design, have more usability. Targeting market levels is another crucial aspect of making eco-friendly craft economically sustainable. We would need to target different market levels, such as the high, the middle, and the low in local, domestic, and international markets. Each level of the market would require products with different levels of craftsmanship with contemporary creativity. The value chain of product created. When the craftspeople can secure a higher place in the value chain, only then the future generations will show an interest to remain engaged in this craft tradition. On the other hand, the value of a piece of art or utility to the buyer is not only measured quantitatively but also qualitatively, which includes, as we know, 3 overlapping areas of functional utility, economic utility, and the emotional implications, that how it makes people feel and think. The measures undertaken in our project initiative to revive and revitalize the age-old exquisite Shola craft tradition of Bengal have already started the much-needed entanglement of fine craftsmanship with contemporary creativity, innovation, and sensibilities to produce products to meet present-day needs. We hope that this trend of revival continues and makes this age-old intricate craft tradition of Bengal prominent and flourishing. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ms. Shoshmita, for bringing the Shola experience of preservation and economic benefits to the community. So last but not least, we have, thanks for staying patient with us until the end, Ms. Monica Shai, Director of American Center and Public Affairs Officer, U.S. Consulate. Thank you.
So hello everyone, namaskar. It's 11:45 and time for your tea break. My name is Monica Shai. I'm the Director of the American Center. Have any of you been to the American Center? A few people? Okay, great. We do a lot of programming. We also are long-standing partners with Bangla Natak and Contact Base. So I wanted to mention a couple of those programs, but first I just wanted to let you know the American Center is part of our U.S. consulate, so it's part of our diplomacy. We see culture as diplomacy. My job is to create cultural dialogue. We bring speakers, artists, musicians here to Kolkata. We also bring artists, musicians, Bengalis, others from our 11-state consular district here to the United States, to the Smithsonian, to the Folklife Festival. We have all kinds of exchanges and partnerships whereby we make people-to-people connections. I believe, and our ambassador believes, that the people-to-people connections between India and the United States are more long-lasting and stronger than any of the government-to-government connections, and that's why this kind of work is so important to us. The United States, as you probably know, we don't have a Ministry of Culture, we don't have a Department of Culture, but we do have culture. How many of you have visited the United States? And how many of you have been to New York City? I'm a New Yorker, and we've got culture. But you know what, as Americans, we're very practical people. A lot of us, you know, we are a nation of immigrants. We continue to be a nation of immigrants. And immigrants are not the people who are land-owning, wealthy people. They're the people with the spirit of entrepreneurship. So we use, in America, we use culture as a tool. So when we do diplomacy through culture, we're actually using culture as a tool to do things that are important to us. And let me tell you some of the things that are important to us. The 3 things that are really important to our consulate here in Kolkata are entrepreneurship, gender empowerment, and anti-trafficking in persons. So we use culture as a tool to reach audiences and to reach communities that otherwise we might have trouble reaching in order to do things like empower women, in order to do things like reach out to vulnerable girls who might otherwise be trafficked, in order to give women the tools that they need to make their livelihood. We're practical. We know that art for art's sake doesn't work for people who need to put food on the table. Art for art's sake is a nice concept, but it's not a way to make a living. Yesterday, how many of you were here yesterday and saw our US speaker, Dawn Mansk? Anybody? So she's a US speaker who we brought to Kolkata because she has made a business called Made for Freedom. And what her business does is it connects people who create art products to markets of people who will buy them. It's a very practical kind of a business that basically says, look, these wonderful, beautiful things are being made. How can we sell them? So she's talked to a lot of grassroots entrepreneurs about how to actually make a living, how to bring money into their homes. We know that women, when they make money, that money goes back into the family. It goes for education. It goes for health. It goes for sustainability of the family. So it's really important that particularly women entrepreneurs have the skills that they need and are able to connect with the markets in order to make money off of their artistic skills. I mentioned entrepreneurship. I'm a New Yorker, I mentioned that, and I have artist friends back in New York who do all kinds of different art. One of my friends is a visual artist, and she creates huge paintings. And she creates some of these paintings on commission. And she was interviewed by a magazine recently, and she was asked, when you do a painting by commission, is that not damaging to the purity of your artistic vision? And she laughed. And she said, I am not interested in being a starving artist. I have no interest in that. I want to make a living off of my art. So what we think we need to do and what we're doing here and some of the ways that we're partnering with Bangla Natak and partnering with Contact Base is, for example, just this week in about 3 days, we're going to bring a bunch of young entrepreneurs into the American Center for a boot camp to help them to talk about their pitches, to help them to speak in English about what they're doing, to tell the story of their art, and to reach an audience, to reach a market in order to do the kinds of things that they need to do to make entrepreneurship a viable first choice career option. We see a lot of people who come to entrepreneurship late after they've failed at other things. We would like to see entrepreneurship as a first choice career option because people are creative. I would say the people of America and the people of India have this in common. This is a shared value. Innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship, the ability to make something out of nothing, to take a small business and make it work. So we do a lot of work in this direction. I'll just run through a couple of things we do because I know we're already out of time before I even started speaking. So we have an Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation grant that we give out every year. We work to document songs, the Bawaya songs of North Bengal, the Batiali boatman songs of the Sundarbans. We've worked to preserve the Bangla Qawwali music. So the U.S. government is involved in all of this. We also have our Communities Connecting Heritage program. This brought 5 Bengalis to the Smithsonian Folklife Festival. It also brought 5 Americans to West Bengal. We looked at all of the different art forms that are going on here, and most importantly, the 5 indigenous artists from West Bengal, all from rural areas. When they went to the United States, they learned the skills of digital recording, oral history mapping, effective storytelling, and effective use of social media in order to promote and preserve their culture. We also have cross-border exchanges, again through culture, through street theater. We took Bangladeshis and Indians to the border, and they put on a theater production, young people, teenagers, young people, and they talked about their experiences in the human experience of the India-Bangladeshi border, and they underscored the importance of intercultural dialogues. They talked about how when they did this project together, the Indians and the Bangladeshis, they started to see each other as the same rather than the other. And it changed the way they looked at the world and the way that they looked at their own art and their own jobs. These theater performances were performed both on the border and all over West Bengal. These are the kinds of things that we work together with Bangla Natak, with Contact Base, in order to achieve. The last one I want to mention, again, we use culture and cultural dialogue for peace. We have Peacenik's Youth-Led Action for Peace. The reason I mentioned this one is because it's coming up very soon at Jadavpur University. We use culture as a way to understand the root causes of extremism. We use culture to understand the need for sustained community engagement to promote peace. So the way that the American government, the American Center, the U.S. Consulate looks at some of the things that you're working on, we really see it as a tool. We see it as a tool to connect cultures, connect people, and to build the foundation between my government and the Indian government, your government, which really starts at the grassroots in a room like this with you and with me talking together about how we can have a dialogue and connect in a very human way. And I would say that art is the most human of human nature. All of us express ourselves. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Monica, for adhering to the time and for bringing different additional aspects to the discussion today, and entrepreneurship, women, and the contribution. It's not only art for art, but also is to bring money to your family and to yourself, to the economy generally. So these are all very good points, and as well as the cultural exchange cross-border. So thanks to all of you. I think you have voted with your own feet by staying in your seat, not by your stomach, to go for tea or coffee. Thank you for that. We have eaten 15 minutes of your tea break. So maybe, if you would allow me, we will have only 15 minutes for tea break, and we can take any 1 or 2 burning questions.
It's a good question. We thought of a number of different ways. So there's a song that contains a story. Now, Bangla Natak has already translated and transcribed the songs, so they're available in Bengali and in English, right? So those translations could be used with packaging. So they could be used with narrative packaging. And another option we're exploring, we haven't done the costings yet, is QR codes. You know those funny little squares? Yeah. So that's one way of linking it to these, to their digital recordings of the songs and the performance, whether it's video or audio, and building on the skills development. I think the Smithsonian project was also in Naya Village, So building on some of the digital skills training that people have been done, what our intervention does is it provides that little bit extra to get good quality digital storytelling, recordings, and build it into a social media strategy for individuals and collectives in the village. Yes. Okay. Mm. Yes. Yes. Correct. Yes, good questions. Okay, so the first question was, why are there no GI users registered yet? That's just because the process is still taking its time. The GI was only registered last year, and so Chitra Taru, which is the local association, is going to go through a process now of registering the users and implementing it. So it's just a phase of implementation. It's not through lack of interest from the community or any kind of a problem with implementing. Then the second question is, I'm sorry, I'll be very quick. The art, it's just the principles of some of the art codes that we would suggest as possible amendments. It's not the content of the art that we would borrow from the international examples.
Just a comment. Let's have it one-to-one because they are here. They are here. I see two hands up, including yours. So let's approach them immediately after we close the session. So thank you very much for staying late, and very, very special thanks to the great panelists today. Let's give them a very good